Ladies and gentlemen, mark this date on your calendar with red ink. Yes, the 16th of November 2024 is the grand anniversary celebration of Revelation Revealed Ministry. It will be celebrated in fine style, namely a grand musical extravaganza. On the lineup, we have Destiny, Aliana, Rosenia, Edify, Thea Frank, Latoya Mullins, Rupert Hurlock, and Victor Thompson, and Dr. Winston Hurlock, and many more. You just can't afford to miss this evening. It will be great. Make sure you invite a friend and come out and celebrate with us at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, 4350 Lawrence East in Scarborough. See you then. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Revelation Revealed Ministry, a ministry designed to explain truth in all its fullest. I'm Pastor Hurlock, your host, and I'm so delighted to be back with you this week. Last week, many of you phoned and text and commended me on the sermon on Rahab. And many of you did not know that Rahab became a family member of Jesus. She was Jesus' far distant cousin. And she also was mentioned in the list of champions in the church. So I'm very glad that you're taking note and you're tuning in every Friday evening at 9. And some of you, those of you who have missed, you generally go on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday during the week. I'm so glad and I want to thank you for your continued support. Before I introduce the speaker to you this week, or the speaker for this week, let me inform you of how you can attain your tickets for the concert on the 16th of November. I'm so happy that many of you are excited about it. You're willing to come and support, lend your support. But you're making inquiry as how you can receive a ticket. And tonight I'm going to give you at least 4 ways how you can get your ticket to the upcoming concert. Number 1, you can call my number, 647-226-4178. 647-226-4178. Number 2, upon your arrival at the church, you can have your ticket there. But I would encourage you to please purchase your ticket prior to coming to the concert. That is much better. It makes things easier. And number 3, I just want to take a little time out here to thank all the pastors in Toronto for their support. I am telling you, every pastor is willing to help. And they have been helping and promoting the concert. So whichever church you hear the promotion or see the flyers or the posters, there are tickets there. Just ask any one of the pastors and they will direct you accordingly. And number 4, which is so easy and important, we're on the cutting edge here on Revelation Revealed Ministry. So use your phone and you can scan the QR code on your screen. And that will lead you to Eventbrite, where you can you can purchase, that's the word I'm looking for. You can purchase your ticket. So those are the 4, and you'll see it right there on the screen. Just use your phone, scan that QR code, and it will lead you to Eventbrite where you can purchase your ticket. I hope that is easy. If you're still having difficulty, please call my number 647-226-4178. I'm looking forward to that day. And one of the negatives that's mentioned at my concert is that you have come to hear me sing, and I only sing 2 or 3 songs. Let me tell you something. On the 16th, I'm going to sing. I'm going to sing. I hope we'll have some nurses there. If I drop, they will take care of me. I know my doctor friends are coming, but I will do my very best for you that night. I will make sure I sing more. So don't stay away because I don't sing as much at my concert. I'm going to change that for you. All right? That's all good. Now, the speaker for the next 4 weeks, how many? 4 weeks, is Miss Carolyn Nichols. Now, she is back because of popular demand. Now, remember last year or the year before, she made some presentations, and so many people have been blessed, and they were able to see her. She was able to help them. She is a certified nutritionist. And I want to let you know, please don't miss any one of these presentations. And they are prepared just for us, for myself, for you. And I hope you'll find them interesting. So starting tonight, we will begin with disarming diabetes. If you are having such problem, she can help you to get rid of it. If you don't, she can help you to be proactive, not reactive. All right. So please enjoy tonight and share these discussions or presentations with your friends. Friends, look, we need to help each other. One of the best things we can do is to help each other. There's no special time to help. Every time you help is the right time. And you will notice that today, because of the water, I don't know, because of the type of food we eat, we don't get enough exercise and fresh air. We are sick. So many of our people are sick and dying. I have never, ever in the 37 years in ministry, have done so many funerals. And of course, friends, I must take this little time and talk with you. What I've found is now most of the people and the funerals that I've been doing, they are very close people to me. I know them ever since I came to this country. We have been good friends, and now they are gone. Now I'm looking into myself, but we're all in line. We are all in line. The moment we are born, we race towards death, not life. We are certain of death, but not life. But you don't have to be afraid of that. You see, the way we live, the way we die. And if you live in Christ and die in Christ, you will rise in Christ. So you really don't have to live in a stiff jacket as if you're going to die. No. However, the Bible said, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health. So we can do something to extend our lives and to make it more productive. And that's why we prepare these lectures for you. Please don't miss any. All right? So next week, which is the 4th of October, can you believe the time is rushing by? 4th of October, we are talking about healing. She will be talking about healing hypertension. It is one of the silent killers. All right? Maybe too much salt, maybe too much worry. Whatever it is, we all suffer from it. And October the 4th, then October 11th, how to overcome cholesterol. That's another one. And maybe because of the food. And you don't even have to eat poorly to have bad cholesterol. I'm sure I learned that. Then iron and calcium, the importance of those two. Um, are they vitamins or minerals? If you are deficient and or you're not, but the importance of iron and calcium in the body. She will address that on October 18th. So please don't miss one of these lectures. They are extremely, extremely important. We not only talk about earth, we also talk about heaven. Most times we talk about heaven, but we don't talk about earth. So we need to survive here the best way we can. Understand, having these lectures will allow us to be well informed. All right? So please don't miss and make sure you send on the videos to your friends. May God bless you. Shall we pray? Loving Father, we thank you for the presentation, presenter, the presenter. I pray, Father, that you will grant her courage and strength and knowledge, wittiness, whatever it takes for her to make these presentations a success, that we may understand what we need to do to have a better life or experience better life here on earth. May you bless her as she make these presentations in the worthy name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you and God bless you.
So welcome to Diabetes, Disarming Diabetes. I'm very, very excited to share this session with you. I'm excited because at the Energy Shack, and actually longer than the Energy Shack, my name is Carolyn Nichol, and I'm a certified holistic nutritionist. And for more than a decade, I have had the privilege of helping people naturally reverse type 2 diabetes. And I've also had the privilege of helping people with type 1 diabetes become less insulin dependent. And it is such a blessing and a privilege to help people gain their health back, because we are going to see that as we go through this session, you will see that diabetes is a real disorder, but for the most part, as long as it's type 1, it can be reversed. And so I'm just going to remind everybody just to make sure that your mute is on, so that there's no background noise, and just to keep your also just to keep your screen off, your video off, and you can put it on later. So with that being said, I just want to introduce this metabolic disorder. The true name for diabetes is diabetes mellitus. So this is the true name for diabetes. It refers to a group of diseases that affect how the body uses sugar, which is glucose. So every single thing that our body uses, and one thing that our body uses is actually all of the food turns to glucose. And glucose allows us to actually have energy, to function, to think, especially just think. The brain uses 3 times more glucose than any other system in the body. So it's very important that we have the right amount of glucose. So glucose is not the enemy, but too much glucose becomes a problem. So glucose is a very important source of energy for the cells that make up the muscles and tissues. It is the brain's main source of fuel. So very important to understand that. Now, there are different kinds of diabetes. Most people are only familiar with a pre-diabetic or type 1 or type 2, but there's actually a type 1.5, okay? And so as I'm talking through this, I want you guys to kind of, reflect in your mind as to is, do I fall in any of these categories, or do people I know fall into any of these categories? So we have type 1 versus type 2 diabetes, and you can also see that it doesn't show a type 1.5, but I'm going to explain that I've met quite a few type 1.5 people. So type 1 is something that you're born with or genetic disposition, but it may not present itself until much later on in life. So that basically means that you have a compromised pancreas. And with that being said, is that when your pancreas is not working, and you'll see the beta cells are not producing insulin, that is not a condition that I have known that can be reversed. However, you can definitely drastically reduce your insulin dependency, and I'll show you why and how. Type 2 diabetes can be prevented through lifestyle modifications. Your body produces enough insulin. The problem is your cells are not able to accept the insulin. So there's a problem there. Now, both type 1 and type 2 could be using insulin injections, but a type 1 person would never take metformin or any type of a oral pill, because that's not the problem. So, and I wouldn't say never. Some type 1 diabetics may do that because they are a type 1 that has type 2 disposition. So they've created a type 2 condition, even though they also have a type 1, which is really dangerous, but again, very, very fixable. And if there's anything that I want you guys to get across throughout this entire seminar, is that type 2 diabetes is absolutely reversible. Type 1 diabetes, not, but we can help to, reduce your insulin dependency for sure. Now, what's a type 1.5 diabetes? Is that a real thing? Absolutely it is. So type 1.5 means that your pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin. It produces insulin, but not enough. So you may be on small amounts of medication or small amounts of insulin. If you're diagnosed as a type 1.5, because it's a real medical term, your doctor should know. It's a little hard to figure out, but I can figure it out with diet. So then your best solution would be take small amounts of insulin, or you have to constantly be very extremely careful with your diet because you just don't produce enough insulin. So again, any questions you have about this, please just throw it in the chat. So I love to bring it home with statistics. And there's a reason why, as we were advertising this, we called it the latest pandemic, because it is rapidly growing, and not just in Canada, the US, but all around the world. So you can see the statistics there is that 2017, 8.4 million, then 2020, 9.4 million, 2022, 11.7 million. So these are people that show pre-diabetic, diabetic conditions, but actual go to the doctors and put it in paper that you're diagnosed with it. Those numbers are lower, and that is type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes. But just so you know, 95% of diabetics are type 2. So it's a very small amount of the population that is type 1. Now, I want you to say, well, yeah, of course, those numbers are going up because our population is growing. Diabetes is growing faster than our population. Okay, now 30 billion a year is what it costs our healthcare system to treat people with this disease. When you look at that, I don't want you necessarily to be thinking about, well, that's where my taxpayer money goes. This is making people unnecessarily rich. I just want you to know that. This is making unnecessary spending, because type 2 diabetes is absolutely preventable and curable. And average out-of-pocket expense for you after your benefits cover those medications or a percentage of it, you're generally spending about $1,500 per year out of pocket. Generally, many people are spending much more than that. And what's not covered in that is the amount of sick days that you have to take, or the amount of quality of life that's decreased, not wanting to go out, not wanting to share, not wanting to socialize because you just don't feel well. Some very interesting statistics here is that 1 in 22 Africans in Africa have diabetes, compared to Canada and the US, which is 1 in every 6. Europe, South America, and Asia, we have 1 in every 11, the Caribbean 1 in every 8. So there's something going on here, and I want to explain this to you as we go. But especially with diabetes, interesting enough, the statistics grow extremely high as you get older. Is it an age-old disease? It's not an age-old disease, friends. It is an accumulation of glucose in your system and your body's inability to deal with the amount of glucose that's in your system, and then neuropathy sets in, and as you get older, you lose less of an ability to recover from situations like that. So that's ultimately the problem. So let's look at some common symptoms. Don't get all scared, and I am going to show you at the end how you can get a consultation with me if you feel that you need that, and you're going to get, you guys are going to get so many discounts tonight. I am just very excited for you. If you feel like you need the help, or if you know somebody that needs the help, even if they're not on the line today. So excessive thirst, if you are constantly thirsty, I mean, if you're talking like me, that makes sense. But excessive thirst is one of the reasons, one of the symptoms that you can have if you are experiencing, you're experiencing diabetes. So that's very real. Another one of the symptoms that you can have would be excessive urinating. And the reason being is that your body is trying as rapidly as it can to get rid of glucose. So it's trying to pee it out. Age-old remedy before we could check A1C levels, or you prick your finger with the blood sugar. I'm sure people know the doctor would just take you outside and say, pee on the sidewalk where there was a bunch of ants. And if all the ants came to your urine, he's like, yeah, you're diabetic. So that's real. That really used to happen. I don't know if it still does today. But that's what happens, is that when your body, especially at night, when all your systems are going through the waste process, you're not busy and running around, the waste system happens at night, and then you will get up constantly to pee. So presence of ketones in the urine, so you might see that as a lot of bubbles, fatigue or weakness. You might be on both sides of the scales where you have weight loss happening or weight gain rapidly. Fatigue or weakness. And the reason being is that glucose is supposed to go inside the cells in order to give you and I energy. So unfortunately, if you are not getting enough glucose inside the cells, which is what happens, your energy is super low. Your sugar is sitting outside of the cell. It can't get inside the cell, and it's coming out because that combustion's not happening. So that's why we end up with fatigue or weakness. Feelings of being irritable, because there's so much sugar in the blood, it's draining you of energy, and it's way too much glucose for the brain. So there can be some confusion that can happen, or you're not thinking properly, but it's a glucose overload for the body. This can also cause blurry vision. And because your blood is literally sugary and acidic, you might find yourself, this cut is just not healing very fast. Or your immune system, which gets drastically depleted whenever your immune system is affected by sugar, it drastically starts depleting 20%. 1 tablespoon of sugar in the blood will deplete your immune system by 20%. So that will also happen, and you'll notice that maybe you'll get vaginal infections if you're a female, or you'll find yourself catching viruses a little faster. You might also notice tingling or numbness in your extremities. So those are some common symptoms. So how are blood sugar levels tested? And I know for some people, this is information they already know, but these are the levels of blood sugar. And a lot of people are actually quite confused of what the A1C levels are. So why is it that when I check my blood sugar at home, it shows at, 6.1, but when I go to the doctors, it's showing that it's 7.5. Does AC go deeper? Like, what's happening? So no matter whether you're pricking your finger at home or whether you're going to the doctors to check it in any way, and there's not just A1C, but there's lots of other ways to check your blood sugar. These are the levels that you want to pay attention to. So below 5.7, you are generally not a diabetic. You are 5.7 below, you're normal. 5.7 to 6.4, now we're in the pre-diabetic state, and 6.5 or above is diabetes. And I actually, I would say, just from my experience, is that if you are 5.9 or 6 and over, that is diabetic. That is full-fledged diabetic because you have all the symptoms. And if your blood sugar is constantly showing at 5.8 or 5.9, your doctors will most likely put you on some medication. So the A1C is measured by the amount of sugar that's attached to your hemoglobin. That level of sugar is an average of where your blood sugar is over 3 months. That's why when you prick your finger, you're getting where your blood sugar is in the here and now. How much sugar is in my bloodstream right now? So that's why it can keep changing. So you can see this variation that you might get highs and lows. You might see 6s and 8s and 10s, but then you go to the doctor. It's an average of the last 3 months. Keep that in your mind, because our programs that we do, there's a reason why they're a full 2 months. And I ask people to stay the course. Don't stop, because if you can go for 3 months at really good blood sugar levels and make some changes, you will see great A1Cs. And then the next 3 months, imagine what would happen if you kept up what we've told you to do. So pretty much in 6 months, you can pretty much be a non-diabetic if you do things right. And there was a question in the chat saying, well, does it matter how long you're a diabetic? I will say that pretty much everybody's fixable. But if you've been diabetic for a long time, and you've been also giving yourself insulin plus medication for a long time, it's a slower climb uphill. The healing's not so as rapid as somebody who's just diagnosed, because you have created sugar, which we'll look at in a second, creates a lot of damage in the system. And some of that damage, there's no coming back from. That's the reality. So it doesn't mean that you're diabetic forever, but it may mean that you're suffering with certain conditions as just part of your lifestyle because of the damage that the blood sugar has caused. So there are some real dangers of uncontrolled blood sugar. This is extremely real. And here's the reality, is that symptoms are not always felt until your blood sugar hits 10 or 11. I had a client in here when we started the program, we checked her blood sugar fasting, it was 20. And when we finished the program, closer to the 2-month mark, we got it down to 7. She said, it's so strange. I don't feel any difference. I mean, I have more energy and I feel good, but I don't have like this numbness and tingling and all these diabetic situations and conditions. So some people don't. And I've had some people with blood sugar at 6 and 7, and they're feeling the neuropathy. So everybody's different, but most people may not feel any symptoms until they get to about 10 or 11, and that's just so high. That's so high. So high ketone levels make your blood too acidic, and this is a serious condition called ketoacidosis. The problem is that there's too much carbon. So when there's too much carbon in the system, which is what sugar causes, because sugar completely congests the blood, which means it gets rid of the oxygen. So When we breathe out carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen. Too much carbon dioxide is extremely dangerous for the body. Oxygen heals and repairs cells. So you want lots of oxygen in the body. Obviously, too much, you can create oxidative damage. But for the most part, I mean, unless you're like, you know, a major Olympic cyclist, you're not going to take in too much oxygen. But it's very dangerous to have too much carbon dioxide in the system. So when there's too much of the carbon molecule in the body, that's when you go into ketoacidosis. And that's what happens when there's too much sugar in the bloodstream. You can lose your vision permanently, and there's no coming back from some vision issues. Some vision issues I've been able to clear up extremely well, but there's some, your eyes are so sensitive. There's so many fragile tissues in your eyes. When sugar gets on there, it eats away at those nerve endings. And for some people, the damage is deep and it's impossible to return from. So if blood sugar, you've been diagnosed as a pre-diabetic, you want to do something right away. Whether you're just going to take my advice and follow it through a seminar like this, or you're going to come and talk to me, but get that taken care of, because uncontrolled blood sugar in the system is very, very damaging. Loss of circulation because your blood is extremely thick. You damage your nerves. Sugar is acidic. Sugar starts to eat away at your nerves. It starts to eat away at your cells. And if there's too much sugar in the brain, now we can have a loss of consciousness, Alzheimer's, dementia. Alzheimer's and dementia, I mean, I don't know how much you guys are reading, but that is just diabetes part 2. That's the reality. So corrosion of veins and arteries, it causes erectile dysfunction, fertility issues, liver and kidney failure. Blood sugar uncontrolled in the system, friends, is absolutely dangerous. So I'm hoping that whether it's yourself or somebody you know, anybody that's struggling with high blood sugar, this is recorded and it will also be on our Facebook page soon. But whether they talk to me or listen to this, let's just really help each other, because type 2 diabetes is absolutely reversible. It's much better to catch it earlier. So let's just talk about this reality of, so my blood sugar is uncontrolled in the system. So let's do an insulin or metformin or Janumet or some sort of a medication. Well, that will bring your blood sugar levels lower. There's no question about it. This is a study that was done in Arizona. It showed that metformin reduces insulin secretion, which may reflect lesser need of insulin since insulin sensitivity is enhanced by metformin. I am sure you guys know Carolyn is not a drug pusher. So why am I sharing this with you? I want you guys to see what, and again, you know what, whether it's metformin, Janumet, there's a lot of different variations. They almost all contain the same things, okay? So since I believe if I have my 5 billion people use metformin, let's just go with the top selling medication. And I also want you to know that companies like this count on the statistics getting higher, and they count on the numbers. Every single person, you can ask insurance companies, anybody who works for an insurance company, you are a figure, you are a number. You have high blood pressure, diabetes, and cholesterol. Okay, you're worth to them $300,000. You're worth to them $150,000. But next year, you're going to be worth to them, you know, $450,000, because they count on your condition getting worse, even if you're on the medication. That's real. So let's just think about this, okay? I want us to be processors and thinkers. So if the study shows that metformin reduces insulin secretion, is that good for your pancreas to be told to produce less insulin? What happens when metformin is not present in your system and your pancreas has been told by an outside force not to produce so much insulin? Okay, so if I go to the gym every single day and you take me off the gym every other day, or lessen my time at the gym from an hour to 20 minutes, am I not going to get weaker? Absolutely. It also lowers glucose production from the liver. Well, here's the problem. You might say, that's great. So the liver will produce less glucose go inside the system. That's wonderful. Well, really? Are you eating any less glucose? So where is that glucose going? It mostly stores it in the brain. You know why? Because the brain uses more glucose than any other system in the body. That's a real problem, friends. Because
hello. Good evening.
I'm just going to ask everyone to mute.
How far?
So that's a real problem, because if you have glucose stored inside your brain, a lot of it constantly, because of the metformin, that is a recipe for Alzheimer's, dementia, and inability to process and think well. I mean, at just the start of it, that's the reality. So this may sound great, but if you're not changing your diet and still eating foods that have so much glucose, and metformin is slowing that glucose into the system, that's a real problem, friends. It can increase insulin sensitivity. It can cause lactic acidosis in some conditions. And this is an absolute study done. Ultimately, the lactic acid, that you produce from your muscles when you work it out, so it's actually causing an issue that your muscle tissues get eaten away. So it's very, very common for people that are on metformin or any of these diabetic drugs to actually lose muscle mass. You're going to lose muscle mass. You're losing protein rapidly, and your muscles are there to protect your bones. And the more your muscles get stronger, the more your bones get stronger. Do you know what you're leading yourself to? You're leading yourself to osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, or just arthritic conditions, easy to break bones. That's ultimately what's happening. And although metformin, this is very interesting, has been used for almost 5 decades, that's 50 years, friends, its mechanism of action is not fully understood, says Dr. Nair. Is that just crazy? We still don't really understand the side effects and how this drug is used, really? So the people that developed this over 50 years ago don't really know how it's affecting the human body? That's a little scary. Metformin's most common side effect is gastrointestinal distress. And a lot of people taking metformin know that. Nausea, diarrhea, upper abdominal comfort, and discomfort. And the reason being hasn't even been fully figured out. It's suggested that more serotonin is released in the digestive tract whenever metformin goes inside the stomach. That's a problem, because the serotonin release will actually make you feel nauseous. And then guess what, friends? When you release unnecessarily serotonin, do you know what that means? You're going to flush out serotonin. You're going to deplete your stores of serotonin. Do you know what that means? Serotonin is your happy hormone. Serotonin helps you fight depression. Serotonin helps you not be depressed. It's your happy hormone. Serotonin, when you have enough stores of it, you produce melatonin so you can sleep at night. This is a major problem. So by taking these diabetic drugs, you are losing serotonin at the same time, causing discomfort in the stomach, which actually starts to eat away at that mucosous lining in your stomach that helps you buffer any kind of trouble in there. So this is a real problem. But I'm going to tell you, what's your solution? So if you have diabetes and you have too much glucose in your system, you probably give yourself Alzheimer's and dementia later on in life, or lose limbs if it goes uncontrolled. So we can take a medication, but now it's just going to store that glucose in my brain anyway and cause all these other issues. A very wise woman wrote in the book Ministry of Healing that medication only takes disease and moves it somewhere else. And that's the reality. Is there another solution? I hope I'm just, not making anybody feel terrible, because the answer is coming, friends. What I want you guys to understand is that diabetes is not just a sugar issue. That's what many people think it is. Diabetes is not just a sugar issue. It's not because you're eating too much cake or cookies or pop or juice. Many times it can be, but when I'm doing my consultations and I am asking people's diet, when they have diabetes, they know to stay away from this stuff, but yet they still have their diabetic condition. What's the problem here? So, as we mentioned, there's a few problems. Number one, your pancreas may not be functioning normally. And that's not just a type 1 condition. That could be a type 1.5 condition, and it can even be a type 2 condition. This happens in type 2 diabetes. Again, maybe not scientific, but just through my experience, I've discovered that people who have very, very high stress lives, who are very emotionally stressed out, have been trying to get their master's or working and going to school at the same time, or through a bad relationship, or frustrated with their home life, like really emotionally stressed out people, because of the cortisol release that stress causes, it actually damages the pancreas. So many people type 2 diabetic are actually damaging their pancreas due to their stress, and that's causing some of the issue. So, but if your pancreas is not producing enough insulin, that's going to be an issue for diabetes. So you have alpha cells, delta cells, and beta cells. So if you don't have enough beta cells, you aren't going to produce enough insulin. These are small little tiny islets that are inside your pancreas that are very, very fragile. So if they get destroyed or ruined, then you are going to have a problem with your blood sugar. That's the reality. And if you're constantly telling your beta cells to shut off, you can end up with a backup of insulin. Now, just on that whole insulin thing, what if you're not taking a metformin or a Janumet or any of the other drugs for diabetes? What if you're just taking straight insulin? Again, if you're a type 1 diabetic, you have to, my friends. But too much insulin constantly being put in the bloodstream creates those dips of hypoglycemic, and then hyperglycemic, because it forces too much insulin inside the cells. So that becomes a problem as well. So when you have too much insulin in the body, your body has to get rid of all of that insulin. So by putting too much insulin, your pancreas backs off and it won't produce too much. Barely it produced any insulin because you're putting insulin in your system. This is a major problem with Ozempic. Ozempic is like a metformin, like completely remorphed and added to it, because now it creates the digestive issues, but now it's adding insulin to your bloodstream, which, yeah, sure, it might be curbing your appetite, but it's causing a host of other issues, because it's also shutting off your pancreas's ability to actually do what it's supposed to do. So this becomes a major, major, major issue for anybody who is taking insulin. Again, if you have to, you have to. That's just the reality of life if you're type 1 diabetic. But if you don't have to be on insulin, you should not be taking it, because it creates a real issue for your pancreas, your entire bloodstream, and highs and lows of confusion of blood sugar in your body. And when you go to a too low, so you've taken some insulin, you've taken too much, your blood sugar drops, your brain, it's like, this is where so much glucose is stored. It starts losing glucose to help the rest of your body. And then you don't feel good, or you're not thinking straight, or you're just an emotional wreck because your brain doesn't have enough fuel. When we mess up the balance of the human body, it's a real, real problem. So what's the solution, friends? There's actually a great solution. As I mentioned, sugary foods are not necessarily the problem with type 2 diabetes. Looking at this picture, what I want you to understand is that every cell has an insulin receptor and a glucose transporter. Okay, so don't need to go into deep science to help you understand this, but because we have an insulin receptor on each of the cells and a glucose transporter, it's very, very important for us to understand something. When your body consumes food that turns to glucose, your liver is the one that does the conversion, releasing it into the bloodstream. And amazing, because we are so fearfully and wonderfully made, amazingly enough, is that when glucose is released, the pancreas is told to release insulin. Why do these two have to run together in the bloodstream? Because the only way to get glucose inside your cell, okay? So the only way to get glucose inside your cell. So here's your cell, okay? Here's your cell. Glucose is leaving. Glucose is not the enemy. Glucose is leaving the liver. Insulin is leaving the pancreas. Both of them are trying to go to the cell. Why is that? Because when insulin sits on the receptor, it unlocks the door so that glucose goes in. It mixes with a bunch of molecules and energy combustion is created inside the cell. And your heart can beat and your lungs can breathe. I mean, you know, that's the gas. Glucose is the gas that fuels everything inside your body. It's incredible. Now, the problem is that if your insulin receptor is blocked, glucose can't get in. It stays in the bloodstream and waits. It goes to the next cell. That one's blocked too. So the doctor's solution is to, oh, let's give you a medication that lessens the load of glucose into the bloodstream. Let's give you insulin that forces insulin onto the cell. Let's give you so much of it to force it onto the cell. Well, what's the problem? So what I do in my line of work and what I want to show you today is, why don't we do something else? Why don't we just figure out what's blocking that insulin receptor? Because if we can unblock it, then glucose goes in. And why don't we change the foods that are too high in glucose to ones that are not so high in glucose, so your body doesn't have a big dump of glucose either. So insulin resistancy is the #1 reason for type 2 diabetes. Now, what on earth could be on that cell? What could be blocking that insulin cell? Very interesting. Whenever we eat foods that have a lot of saturated fats, or if you have too many carbohydrates that your body cannot use all that fuel, all that stored glucose, all that glucose, your body will start storing it. And when it's stored, it turns into fat. So basically, I want you to look at this. When you've got too much saturated fats in your body, your liver will break those saturated fats down into myocellular lipids, okay? Small, tiny little fat molecules that if you had a very good bowel movement, and lots of fiber, some of them will be pulled from the system. But most people, those myocellular lipids go back up through the bloodstream. Lipids are sticky. Fat is a sticky substance, but so is fiber. I'm going to explain that connection in a minute. But what happens is that sticky fat starts sticking to your cells. They are the perfect size, friends, for your insulin receptors. The perfect size. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So what I want you to understand is that diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is not necessarily a sugar problem. It's a saturated fat issue. It's too much carbohydrates, too much foods that turn to glucose that your body's not using, and it turns into fat. So it's more of a saturated fat issue than it's even a sugar issue, because your insulin receptors are blocked. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking is, well, I went on a ketogenic diet, which was so much meat, so much fat, and actually my blood sugar went down. And what happened here is that you pulled the glucose away and you added protein and fats in large amounts, and you put yourself into a ketogenic state. That means that your body is going to use fat for fuel instead of glucose. Well, that gets dangerous after a while, because that stored fat is going to accumulate. You will probably end up with, like many of my clients, after a year of being on a ketogenic diet, they have insulin resistance so bad because there's an accumulation of those fats. It's almost inevitable. And then you have glucose stores that are too low and your brain's not thinking properly because it runs off glucose. So we don't have this proper balance. It works in the beginning because you've dropped all your glucose and you've added your fat and your body's using fat for fuel. So guess what? It's using fat. And that's great. It causes less insulin resistance, but you're accumulating too much now, month after month, week after week. And so I'm working with people that have done ketogenic for so long, trouble with liver, trouble with kidneys, and now diabetes is uncontrollable. So where do these saturated fats come from? They come from dairy products, especially cheese, but that can be your milk. That can even, believe it or not, be your yogurt because it has hormones in it. Any kind of dairy products, yes, of course, ice cream, evaporated milk, condensed milk, and whether that's fish, chicken, beef, pork, shrimp, all of these fats. If you are not burning through enough fat and calories, they're going to build in your system. So that's why if you go back to the statistics I showed, this is why I'm convinced that in Africa, in countries that are not as industrialized as ours, as Canada and the US is, and Europe, and we are sitting, we are not in the fields working, we're not going out to get our water, we are not going out to get our fruits and vegetables outside, we are sitting and eating the same way that we were culturally taught. Well, guess what? Culturally, they used to grow their own food, make their own food, go outside, kill the goat, kill the chicken, come back inside. We don't do that. We go from sitting to sitting in a car to walking a few steps in a grocery store, picking up our chicken, picking up our dairy products, putting them in our cart, and just getting frustrated that we're waiting in a long line. I don't want to be standing this long. Well, we should march on the spot or something. You've got to move back to your car, back to your house, or worse yet, you just stay in your house and order it in. It's a real problem. We're not moving, friends. So there's just no way we can go through that many saturated fat and calories. And whether it's oatmeal, whether it's even brown rice, white rice, bread, if you are having too much carbohydrates in your system, that becomes a problem because then it's stored as glucose. And when it's stored as glucose, because you're not using enough glucose, it then turns into fat, blocking your cells because your body can't use that much fat. So maybe you end up with a fatty liver, or your body starts breaking them down to those mylar cellular lipids, so that now your body can take small little fat pieces and just patch them everywhere around your body so that it's not all in one place. But that's a real problem because insulin resistance happens. You will, of course, start to accumulate it around the stomach area. These are all really serious, dangerous conditions. So, and what I want you guys to know and understand is that stress is just as bad as the bad food, in fact, worse, because when you have a lot of stress, you have high cortisol releases. And when you have high cortisol releases, it makes your blood thick. It makes your body release so much stored glucose. It makes your body use so much fat. It wants more fat, which is why many people either get really skinny or really big when they are stressed out, because your body cortisol uses the pathway of fat for its travels, and it's going to want fat. So your body's going to produce more cortisol, more cholesterol, and more cholesterol. I've met some vegans with high cholesterol. How's that even possible? Cholesterol is produced by animals only. I produce my own, you produce your own. We produce all the cholesterol we need. 9% of the population produces too much, but most of us are not in that 9%. So my cholesterol is going to go up, which will be another talk in a couple of weeks when I eat an animal. But why would a vegan have high cholesterol? Because they're so stressed out. The body produces extra cholesterol for the pathway of cortisol. And guess what happens when you've got too much cholesterol? You have insulin resistance. So imagine you're also eating meat, you're also eating dairy, you're also eating too much carbohydrates, and you're stressed out. Friend, let me help you, because that's a crisis situation, but you're fixable. I want you to know that. So what's the solution now that I've scared everybody? What is the solution? The solution is that you can have fruits, but don't have high sugar fruits. Don't have the high glycemic index fruits. Have more berries. They're much lower glycemic index. Your apples. Papaya is not so terrible. But pineapple, bananas, mangoes, grapes. I mean, these are all sweet fruits that even peaches and melons that are just going to turn to glucose way too quick in your system. If you don't have diabetic issues, I don't have diabetic issues. I ate nectarines today and pears, and they were ripe and sweet and fine. My blood sugar is going to go up as it naturally should, but then it's going to drop because there's no insulin resistancy. The body's going to be able to absorb that insulin. You're going to want to swap your grains. Stop with the oatmeal, stop with the rice, stop with the bread, maybe a slice or two of gluten-free bread here or there, but go for grains like millet, like buckwheat, which is kasha, like quinoa, like sweet potatoes, squashes. Go for grains and foods that are lower on the glycemic index. Increase your vegetable intake. Vegetables are loaded with fiber. Guess what pulls off those myocellular lipids from your cells? Fiber. But if you don't have enough fiber, there's a portal vein that goes to the liver. If the liver is trying to get rid of saturated fats and there's not enough fiber there, then it's not going to take it away. Remember I told you those lipids are sticky? So is fiber. They love each other and it pulls out of the system. It's amazing what the body will do when it has enough fiber. Millet, quinoa, kasha, loaded with fiber. Your beans, loaded with fiber. Your berries, loaded with fiber. All your green leafy vegetables, loaded with fiber. And friends, if we are not drinking water, it's just going to be a crisis situation. Your body's 65% water, your brain's 75% water. If you're eating so much cooked food all the time, you need extra water. If you have salt in your food, you're going to need more water. And I'm not saying don't put salt, but if there's excess amounts of salt, you're going to need more water. If you're drinking caffeine, you are dehydrating yourself and you need even more water. If you drink alcohol, smoke marijuana, tobacco, your body's going to use even more water. You have high blood sugar, you are going to need more water. And most of us aren't even getting past a liter a day. And I'm saying these from real statistics because I interview clients every single day and ask them how much water they drink. And the average is about 1 liter. Depending on your weight, you're going to need about 2 to 3 liters of water every single day to replenish everything you're doing. I hope I'm inspiring you. So, how can we practically, as we wrap this up, how can we practically heal this diabetic situation? So, the power of fasting, friends, the power of fasting. I really need to lay this home to you. Does anybody know what happens when you fast? You can put it in the chat if you like. After 24 hours of fasting, your body does something incredible. It actually starts to use, and that's why the ketogenic diet's so popular, it actually starts to use fat for fuel. You force yourself to go into the state of ketosis. Now that's great for fasting. I just don't think that's great for the way the ketogenic diet is, the way that the ketogenic diet or intermittent fasting is taught. That creates more issues than anything else. And I will talk about that in a minute. But when you fast, your body starts to use stored fat for fuel. So the longer you fast past 24 hours, on day 2, your body is now taking those myocellular lipids wherever it can find easy access fat, and it's using it for fuel. So the longer you fast and the more often you fast, you use fat for fuel. So fasting is extremely important. Now, the best kind of fasting would be a water fast, but I don't want you to do that unsupervised for more than 2 days. But you could do one of our juice cleanses. We have juices that are actually designed without carrots so that there's not a big sugar spike, and you can go through a very low caloric diet. You could do, if you're not a diabetic, you could do a fruit fast, or you could do berries and salads and just do a raw fast. But the best kind of fast is abstinence from food, but make sure you check with your doctor before you do that, or definitely meet with myself so I can see if you qualify for something like that. So the other thing too is fiber. This is extremely important. And the reason why fiber is so important is because when you have fiber, as you guys saw, when you have fiber, you will actually be able to pull that saturated fat out of the body. And what is also important is not only do you pull the saturated fat out of the body, but you will also be able to take, fill yourself, so you're feeling full, less calories in your body, without, like you will get that fake full feeling. So you'll feel like you're so full, so you'll eat less because you're having big salads every day. But the reality is that it was lower calorie, less glucose. Listen, friends, all plants turn to glucose. So even your lettuce is going to turn to glucose, but that's not the problem. The problem is high sugar glucose items. That's really what the problem is this high sugar glucose items. And that's really what you're trying to avoid. So fiber is your best friend. And healthy fats like your olive oil, nuts and seeds, no more than a quarter cup for an entire day. Make sure they're raw, unsalted, not roasted, no peanuts, minimize cashews. But your healthy fats, avocados, again, in small amounts, maximum half of avocado, maybe every other day. We don't need as many avocados as we're eating. But those healthy fats help to reverse the bad cholesterol. But your fiber is number one. So before you have your meal, have a big salad before you have your meal. All of that salad will help to regulate the glucose that's coming from your food. And make your food full of vegetables, broccoli and green beans and celery and spinach. Let it be full of vegetables because they're full of fiber. Swap your beans out, swap your chicken out for some beans if you can digest them, because chickpeas have so much fiber instead of chicken. And yes, they have a little bit more glucose in it, but it's okay. You had a salad first. So the key is that you have lots of fiber, and this fiber is not going to come from your oatmeal. It's not going to come from your whole wheat bread and your whole wheat crackers and your bran cereals. That's not the kind of fiber that is sticky substance to pull the myocellular lipids off your cells. It's the fiber that comes from your vegetables. And friends, I would be remiss if I didn't mention exercise, because the more you exercise, the more you burn through fat. The more you, not just walking outside, you've got to get your heart rate up. You've got to get your muscles engaged, because the more your muscles engage, the more they burn through fat to grow. And so this is also extremely important. So I just wanted to share a couple testimonies in closing, and then I will take any questions you have. So I just want to let you know a couple testimonies here. And this was Bev, you can read on the screen, that she later in life became a type 1 diabetic in her 30s. So crazy. She had almost an unconscious state, took her to the doctors, and turned out she wasn't just type 2 diabetic, she was type 1. So that can come on at any time in life. But so the doctors put her on a bunch of insulin. She called me because she was an Energy Shack customer, and I told her what to eat. And in less than a month, she was off her daytime insulin. Her diabetic nurse, her dietitian, they were shocked in 1 month that immediately they put her on a certain amount of insulin, and she was cut in half in less than a month. I really believe it happened, if I remember, within the first 2 or 3 weeks. So this is type 1 diabetes, because she was creating a type 2 diabetic situation with her diet. So that's why we can help that. We have clients, we have dozens of them. We have a full diabetic program where people are just left, right, and center coming off their medications or reducing their blood sugar. And honestly, in 10 years, anybody who works with me one-on-one, I don't have a fail in reducing your blood sugar. For some people, it happens like Ivan in 1 week. For other people, it might take me 3 months. It just depends how long you've been a diabetic, how much you want to listen to me, and you know, how you're doing the journey. If you're doing it perfectly right, give me 2 months. I can help almost cure you. But remember what I said, 3 months, cells live and die. So in 3 months, that A1C, if you're eating well, changes. In another 3 months, it's over. You could literally, I don't want to throw out any guarantees there, but if you did it right for 6 months, you could completely and totally reverse your condition. And, but again, if you have had diabetes for so long, for a really long time, lots of medication and other underlying health issues, or if your kidney is not functioning, or you have fatty liver, this might be a 1 or 2 year journey, but it's still reversible. So before I go, and it is 8:31, I just want to pass on to you. That if you do need to meet with me for a consultation, I would love for you to do that, because I would just love to help you. We really specialize in diabetes, and I'd really love to help you do that. We have a program specifically on our website that will help you reverse diabetes, high blood pressure, and cholesterol. So if you're watching today, you can email us, and I'm just going to ask one of our staff members just to put in the chat our email address, our website, our phone number. So if you can put that in, it's info@energyshackjuicebar.com. Get in touch with us. And you can also see on the screen this information. On Instagram, we're the Energy Shack Juice Bar, not just Energy Shack. There has to be a the in front of it. Go on our website, but just email me or call us. And if you do that before Monday, we can book your consultation for any time you'd like in the future and take advantage of $49 instead of $110. If you feel like, you know what, Carolyn, this is too difficult, take me away, do everything for me. I want you to know that we do retreats, and you could come to a retreat. The next one's in November. We just finished our last one in May. $100 off for 4 days, $175 off if you book before August 31st. And we will take you, we will show you how to do the meals. We will do everything for you. It's incredible. So not only does your body heal, but you learn in the process. You learn the natural remedies. You do the saunas and the cold plunges, and you learn the hydrotherapy. So it's educational, but it's also extremely healing. And that runs in November, February, March, April. Now, this is only for the people right now. And if you're watching this on Facebook, unfortunately, the special will be over. So friends, if you would like, I don't know the last time I've taken 15% off of my detoxes. Maximum we ever do is 10%. But if you are serious about changing your health, order a detox online. And for a 3-day and a 5-day, the 2 days, unfortunately, I can't take 15% off. But for a 3-day, 5-day, or any one of our customized detoxes, and if you need a customized detox, it's called Advanced Fast. That's the one that helps to drop the blood sugar. I mean, it heals everything else too, but there's no carrots. Maybe a little harder to drink, but 15% off. This sale will end a little bit more than 48 hours. I've asked my manager to take that and put that to Sunday night. So that is the detox. And if you're ordering online, the coupon code is low sugar. All right, so also, just before we wrap up and I take your questions, we are going to Cuba, friends, and I must just give one final plug for Cuba because we are going to be going to Cuba in July, and we have had so many generous donations. We've already sent money there so that they can get some things started. We are still looking for deodorant for men and women, men's belts, size 32, a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, but that seems to be the most important one. Any laptops that are working, you have the power cords, cell phones. Cuba is in great distress, and the resources for the common people are so low, expensive, impossible to get. They've asked for toothpaste and toothbrush because those are difficult for them to get. It's so crazy. And then we're also taking monetary donations, and we have we are not a not-for-profit organization, but we're going to Cuba on a mission trip to teach the people of Cuba who can't really get medications, but that's actually a good thing. We're showing them how to use the natural remedies they have there to reverse diabetes, high blood pressure, arthritis, and cancer. I'm going there with a team of 13 other people, and we are going to show the Cubans how to do this. We're going to be there for 1 week, but we have to feed them. We have to train them. This is going to cost a lot of money. So we still need a little bit more than 3,000 US. And if you'd like a tax receipt, just get in touch with me. But it's got to be for $200 or more. So friends, please don't forget to follow us on Instagram. It is the Energy Juice Bar. And that's what I have for you today. So I'm going to now take your questions, but if you do need to get in touch with us, for those who maybe need to go, yes, any donations can be dropped off at the Energy Shack. So info@energyshack.com if you need to get in touch with us. That is our email address. And if you need to call us, it's 647-637-6755. Or of course, you can just go to energyshack.com and you can just fill out your intake form there if you need to, or just get in touch with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, mark this date on your calendar with red ink. Yes, the 16th of November 2024 is the grand anniversary celebration of Revelation Revealed Ministry. It will be celebrated in fine style, namely a grand musical extravaganza. On the lineup, we have Destiny, Aliana, Rosenia, Edify, Thea Frank, Latoya Mullins, Rupert Hurlock, Victor Thompson, and Dr. Winston Hurlock, and many more. You just can't afford to miss this evening. It will be great. Make sure you invite a friend and come out and celebrate with us at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, 4350 Lawrence East in Scarborough. See you then.
My faith has found a resting place. From guilt my soul is freed. I trust the ever-living one. His wounds for me shall plead. I need no other evidence. I need no other plea. It is enough that Jesus died and rose again for me. I need no other evidence. I need no other plea. It is enough that Jesus died and rose again for me. Enough for me that Jesus serves. This is my fear and doubt. A sinful soul, I come to him. He'll never cast me out. I need no other evidence. I need no other plea. It is enough that Jesus died and rose again for me. I need no other evidence. I need no other plea. It is enough that Jesus died and rose again for me. My heart is leaning on the word, the written word of God. Salvation by my Savior's name, salvation through his blood. I need no other evidence. I need no other plea. is enough that Jesus died and rose again for me. My great physician heals the sick, the lost he came to save. For me his precious blood he shed, for me his life he gave. I need no other evidence, I need no other plea. It is enough that Jesus died and rose again for me. I need no other evidence, I need no other plea. It is enough that Jesus died and rose again